Hello, it's Lexi, and in this video I am going to be talking about my favorite part of my DODL lesson plan. I'm going to talk about why it's my favorite part, and I'm also going to do a little bit of reflecting, including talking about my peer feedback. Let's go ahead and get into it, starting with my favorite part. The favorite part of my lesson was the engagement part. The engagement part of my lesson was a mystery box activity. The activity started with a box, and I let students know that we were going to be going on an adventure trying to discover what was inside the box and how they connected to the event that we were going to be learning about. So they kind of had to discover what the event was through looking at the items. It was really fun because students got to see the items one by one, which kind of created that curiosity. And as they saw the items one by one, they kind of had an idea, but then once I threw in the cow and the alligator, it really threw off the students that I had in class when I was presenting the lesson, and that was actually my plan. I didn't plan for the alligator to throw them off, but the cow was my plan, and it actually worked, so it was really fun to see that the mystery box items were a mystery and that they didn't know that it was going to connect to Lewis and Clark. So this was the favorite part of my lesson. I also wanted to mention in this engagement part of my lesson, I have the students brainstorming and recording their ideas about the mystery box items, which I think is very valuable as students are going to be able to share their own opinions. I think it's valuable to have them write it down before they share so their opinions are written down and they aren't really changed by their peers. We get to see their raw opinions, and then in the exploration activity they get to share and build on that. So this was another reason why the engagement part was my favorite. Students really get to have that independent time to stop and think about the mystery box items and really give it their best thought. I am now going to talk about each part of my lesson as I presented it in class. So let's go ahead and dive into the 5 parts. As we just talked about, the engagement part, my favorite, that is where we did the mystery box activity where students got to look at the items in the mystery box, and then they got to brainstorm and record. The next part of my lesson, the exploration part, involves students sharing their thoughts. They were able to share in a discussion type format, just going in a circle, sharing their questions, things that they know about the items, and any thoughts that they had. The next part of my lesson was the explanation part. The explanation part on the full lesson plan was very different than our modified lesson plan since we didn't have as much time. In class, the explanation portion was just us watching the video, and in the actual full lesson plan, the explanation portion has us watching the video, and also before watching the video, we have a very long discussion about all of the mystery box items, and it builds off of the discussion that they had in the exploration section. So it's pretty much just a whole class discussion, which is why it is so long. In our 4th section, the elaboration section, we had students choosing which station they wanted to go to, and after they chose which station they wanted to go to, they transitioned, and at their station they had a little introduction to kind of their activity to get them ready. For our last E, we had students starting their products and finishing their products. Since we were in stations, students had different products per station. My station focused on drawing, while Brittany's station had role-playing and Maria's station had journaling. All of us had our own scripts since we were doing our own activities. Since my activity was drawing, in the elaboration portion, we did an activity talking about detail, letting students know that in their drawings they would need lots of detail. So by the time that we started our activity in the evaluation portion, students were already aware of the expectations. They knew that they needed at least 5 details or factual things in their drawings that showed their knowledge of the Lewis and Clark journey. The drawings in class ended up so cute, so I can only imagine what actual students would draw. I was really proud of their outcome. In the actual lesson, we had students making a flip book. While in class, we didn't have as much time, so students were just drawing on one index card their 5 details, while in the lesson, we had planned out that students could use 5 different little index cards and they could make a flip book, and each page could have 1 detail or whatever they would like. They could use their creative freedom. So we did have to shorten it, but both ways, the products were still successful and I was still super proud of the completed activity. Now that I have gone over the 5 different parts of my lesson, I am going to do some reflecting, and I am first going to talk about the peer feedback that I received. So let's start with that. Overall, I was super happy with the feedback that my group received. I thought my peers were actually a little bit nicer, and I thought that maybe the technical difficulties could have affected their score a little bit more, but overall, I thought my peers gave really good feedback. So let's dive into some of the common things that were said along most of them. Let's first address the elephant in the room. Obviously, almost every single feedback that we got addressed the technical difficulties that we had. Yes, we had technical difficulties. In the future, I would be better prepared by going and practicing and setting up beforehand. Inside of a classroom that I am going to be running in the future, I am going to be very familiar with the technology as I'm going to be in that classroom daily. And in this now day and age, in the classrooms that I actually work at currently, every student has a laptop, so if this was to have happened in a classroom now, I would have students open their laptop and they would easily be able to access that video. So it's great to say that my problem-solving skills, no matter what, will always solve any technical difficulties that come about, because I'm sure that even if I was to have practiced, that technical difficulties can still arrive. So I'm glad that no matter what, that in the future, I do plan on going beforehand and practicing, but no matter what, I do feel prepared to tackle the challenges such as technical difficulties that could come at me. So yeah, let's squash the technical difficulties and leave it there. Alright, let's move on. Another common trend that I saw along my peer feedback was the teaching model that we chose. I went and found the review that was left. They said, however, I would change them doing 3 different groups the entire time. So they would have changed that parallel teaching, and that was something that I was a little insecure about going into our lesson. So seeing that a lot of my peers said that they would change that, that is probably something that I would reflect on and change. In the future, if I was to do this differently, a different model that I would choose is co-teaching. I think co-teaching would have worked well for us since we could have bounced back and forth off of each other. So in the future, I think trying different teaching models that would fit better for my classroom and the students would definitely help my lesson go a lot smoother. Like I mentioned, overall, a lot of the feedback that my peers gave really made me think about my lesson and where I could improve, but this one comment was the only one that I thought was a little weird, if I am honest. It says that they should have, it says right here, I think they should assign students the groups of journaling, drawing, role-playing instead of giving a choice to make it even and fair. But us letting them have their choice was really the whole part of the lesson. So this peer review kind of scared me, because if we would have taken out that option, we would have been taking out that big key role that was the whole thing that we were getting graded on. So I think that I would definitely keep the choices. This is the only peer review that I would not listen to. I think the choices actually did make it fair, because students were able to choose what they wanted. It being even really doesn't matter at all. We were able to work with the students that we had, so it was definitely fair because students got to choose what they wanted. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on this comment. Other than that, all of the peer reviews that my peers left me, I am definitely taking into consideration. I am not going to include any video clips in this video from my lesson, because our lesson recording was actually a little jumbled to hear. As a lot of my peers stated, we were all talking at the same time since we chose parallel teaching, which made it a little hard to hear, especially in the video. So I'm going to leave out the video clips, but I really did appreciate going and watching and seeing how the students were reacting to us teaching in real time. Overall, I have a lot to improve on, but I think this lesson was a success. Thanks for watching my reflection on my favorite part of my DODL lesson plan.